welcome everybody to our last Shared Streets and Spaces grant. We'll finalize everything. We have Margaret and Will with us from 10 to 11. So I figure we will start with crosswalks and bike lanes. Adria is coming on from 11 to 12 today. She has enabled things that we need to talk about there. That's the RFB when she gets on. So I guess, how does that sound? Is everybody good with that or a plan? And Joan, I saw your email just a few minutes ago about the estimate sheet. So I suppose that's the one that they want us to put in for the XLS, or does it matter?
I would use what they give us to use if it's not too late.
Okay.
I spent some time this morning going through all their instruction sheets to find, because you always find some surprises at the end. And when we start looking at the application, I'll point out a few more. For example, I realized not in the application, but elsewhere, they said, give us time frames. So I went in that application this morning and I put dates.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later.
All right. Okay. So let's start with the crosswalks. And Will and Margaret, I guess this is for you to tell us what you've got with respect to crosswalks and bike lanes. Does that sound good?
Yes. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Hartley, does Margaret have screen sharing capability? Could that be given to her, please? Hartley, are you there? Okay. Let me see if I can raise him via text.
While we're waiting, one thing about the preliminary estimate Excel spreadsheet that MassDOT provides, my understanding is that you can attach, we're going to send you PDFs of the opinions of probable cost that we developed that will also show on screen today before sending them to you. You can include them as part of your submission package as PDFs, but put them all, you can only upload 3 PDFs, the locust map, cost estimates, and your concept drawing. So you're going to need to take everything and kind of put them in one giant package. For the estimate sheet, you can, I don't know how other municipalities have gone about that, because we typically provide the PDF and then from there we don't necessarily know what they're doing with the application process. But recently, one thing I did provide to another municipality was I just copied all of the numbers from our spreadsheet into that spreadsheet for them. So they were essentially putting duplicate, they uploaded both into the application form. Okay. But they had the PDF backup of like the work that we had done.
Margaret, since we will be combining all of our documents, is it okay or advisable if I don't want to split apart your documents necessarily and then insert them in our documents? So should I say, see page blah, 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 where your documents will be inserted? Is that the best way to go about it? I mean, clearly your stuff has your logo on it, and I don't want to take away your work. And obviously it's good for them to know that this came from you guys. So how would you advise going about that when we compile the PDFs?
I would say you could just combine the PDFs that we send you with the PDFs of all the wayfinding work that you did and for the bike racks, and just make it all one combined sources. But I think that's fine because it'll just be the concept package. You could put divider sheets, like you could say this is the wayfinding section, and this is the bike rack and amenity section, and here that way it's a little bit easier for them to navigate.
Okay.
Okay, I've texted Hartley. but, Margaret, are you able to screen share yet?
Not yet.
Thank you, Hartley.
Okay, great. So let me pull up the concept. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes. There's nothing on it yet, but yes, there we go.
Okay. Delve into each location to submit in terms of like how many different files that you can combine. We're keeping them separated right now just so that you have flexibility as you're making decisions. So there will be one file that will contain all of the pedestrian crossing concepts. The first one will be for the Spalding location, and that one we've done a separate opinion of probable cost for, in case it turns out that if your costs exceed $300,000, then you may need to choose what you want to prioritize. Then the next pages are all of the town-owned crosswalks, and these are all the ones where we're making it clear that these be warning wheelchair ramps. And then so the following pages are all town-owned crosswalks. So that's the first concept file that we will send over. And then there are the 3 bike lane ones. So starting with Depot Street. So Depot Street, and then the second section will be up until Route 13. So that's the Depot Street concept. And then let's see what else is here. We've got the Highland Street concept. Okay, so Highland Street concept is a single page that shows this. And then finally, sorry, I'm working in a couple of different programs here. The last one is the Bow Street concept, and that is a single page. And then in addition to that, before we delve into, we'll also submit a PDF version of the cost estimate for each one. So for example, for the town-owned crosswalks, it's going to be this sheet that is going to have these line items and this final cost at the end. And we'll have one of those for each section. So let's see, I'll show you an example of one that's for a bike lane. So they're all in the same format. And so it'll just be the first page of this. And so that is our submission. But what I was saying about the preliminary estimate is that we had done something for another for Fall River actually, and we just put tabs in for every single project they're doing, and made a little like a version of a summer, the first sheet, because I wanted to use the preliminary estimate sheet and also submit our opinion of probable cost PDFs, which are duplicate information. But that is a route that you could go if you would like to do that and combine all of them into that spreadsheet.
Can you show us that again? Because the Fall River page looks like the page that is the sheet that Shared Streets requests, the one that Joan sent us this morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in other words, you did one sheet for each. I'm.
Yeah, I did one tab for each. Let me just.
Emily, you're the one doing this. So you're the one who makes the final decision on all of this.
This is what the sheet looks like from MassDOT. It has the quantities, the units, the descriptions, unit prices, and the amounts. And then what we did was we just made a separate tab that was a copy of this for every single project they wanted to do. And then we put a summary at the front that was combining everything. We did all of their projects for them, include tabs for all of the bike racks and amenities, etc. And then you could make a summary sheet at the beginning that kind of adds up all of those projects. I would recommend doing that because you're going to want to get to you're going to want to be able to say, okay, these are all my projects and here's the total for the entire grant application.
And what is that? Is that just your concept, that one, the summary page? You just put that together yourself?
Yeah, I created that for them because they had so many projects. They needed to be able to have this is our total request. But that said, I don't know how other municipalities have done it, because typically what we submit is we would submit this first page as a PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I understand that municipalities have been submitting. I think the preliminary estimate form, I don't know if they were using it during the first few rounds. I don't remember.
Okay. All right. It might be easier for us to just have the separate PDFs and concatenate them to, stick them together.
Well, if you make them different tabs in Excel, then when you make the PDF, you can just, every tab will become a page in the PDF. Right?
Well, we can, yeah, we'll submit the PDFs of our opinions of probable cost. And then if you're feeling like you need a spreadsheet too, we can transfer the information into the spreadsheet. Although it's going to be a duplicate of
what we already have.
Yeah,
if we put it
may
in
not
a
be necessary.
spreadsheet, do we then need to include your PDFs of probable cost?
I think you should include the ones that we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
My only thought is if they do put it in a spreadsheet, then Emily and Joan, when you guys go to put in our numbers, you can just work off of that. If all we get is the PDFs, you can't you can't necessarily add them up or copy. Paste the format into, if we get it as the spreadsheets, we can make our spreadsheets and justifications look the same off of that one major one. And we can actually manipulate those numbers on those screens versus taking PDFs and having to retype, redo each of those pieces into one cover sheet, I guess is my thought. If I'm thinking about this right, I'm just trying to think of ease of
I agree.
So I would say yes, it would be great if we could get it in a spreadsheet format again, so that we can pull those formats
and our own tabs.
Okay.
In our own tabs.
Sure.
So that they all look uniform.
We'll insert.
And maybe start with those.
We'll insert all of our cost information into the MassDOT format for you, but we'll also send you the PDFs as backup.
And so as such, for all of our other estimates, if we're including Kittleson's estimates, we've got to include PDFs of our other estimates as well. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if they require you to have duplicates of everything.
I wouldn't think we need to. They're not looking for quote PDFs or anything like that. That wasn't. They just wanted estimates. I mean, we end up because Kittleson being a PDF, I believe it turns into a PDF, I guess is the best way to say it. We don't necessarily have to have both.
Okay, so I can itemize it with the estimates that I've gotten from others into the spreadsheet. I don't need to include their exact estimate.
Right. Yeah, that's my understanding reading the application, and Jones delved into it deeper. But my understanding is we just need a general estimate. We don't need to have exact specifics of it's going to cost $12.30. That's what we need. It's like 12 signs at this much and 12 posts at this much, and not like each, and then a PDF breaking all of it down. I don't think we need that. I think it's more general than that. It's just that Kittleson is more detailed because this is, it's a full design But I don't think we need to add in additional, like I said, the actual estimates or emails that you got from the
Okay, I'll do high level where blah, 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 you know, and then group it all together.
I said if Joan finds something different in her read throughs.
No, you guys are on it. That's good.
That's right. Okay. Sorry, guys. I got a bit of a headache. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just like rubbing my head. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was that. Sorry.
No, that sounds good.
And Margaret, is your crosswalk concept, does it already, did you eliminate the crosswalk at St. John's and that parking lot at the town common already?
Let me open up the concept and take a look. Let me share my screen again.
And for everybody else's, just I guess, information, we've asked Margaret to include all of the town crosswalks that we had identified. What's problematic with driveway of that parking lot, it will need to be changed, and it doesn't make sense to highlight that as a safe crosswalk. So it doesn't strengthen our proposal by keeping it in there. So it was suggested that we take that one out of the others, which would give us just 7 total crosswalks, I believe.
Yeah, some of our other crosswalks, you know, are going to need to be changed as well at some point, but they're not dangerous like the one at St. John's is. So yeah, Emily brought up a great point and sent out. She was like, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't include this one because it really highlights how badly designed that one happens to be." And actually, it is. It's this last one right here, Route 13, Brookline Street, St. John's and Towns Common. We don't want that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll remove that.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. Emily, that's the one you're talking about, right? This one on this front end.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll just remove this
I
one
just
then.
took it off the map as well.
Let's see. Oh, I'm really terrible at using Adobe products. Okay, I'll make a note of that elsewhere.
I will tell you though that is the one crosswalk that I have actually used a lot. The common, only because it's there, you know.
We use it all the time too, because we park there and then
That lot.
but it is really, not, I think it just wouldn't strengthen it. I think it might actually be detrimental.
I do too.
And I suppose, fortunately, in a way, I mean, it already does have a pedestrian crossing sign at it. So, at least as unsafe as it currently is, at least there's a sign, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
At least it's fully
I don't
unsafe
like
then, I don't know. Right?
Okay, so
All right.
we will remove that one from this and from the opinion of probable cost for all of the pedestrian crossings.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anything that you wanted to look at in detail for the pedestrian crossing concept?
Not for the crosswalks. For the bike lanes, I
Okay.
might want to, but
I think the crosswalks are pretty self-explanatory at this point. There, if we were doing additional things, we need to get into more nitty-gritty, but that we're pushing those off to later. I don't think we need to. I think everything other than that one that at St. John's, I think the rest of them were fine. Did you guys go all the way up Route 13 to the school?
We
Was those on there?
did, yes. We included
Okay.
Smith Street, Cross Street, and then the Hawthorne Book driveway.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I didn't.
So
see
there
them
should be a
earlier. I
total of
appreciate
7, correct?
Yeah, so without this one, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
5,
perfect.
6, 7.
Great.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Those look great.
yeah,
Yep.
that is great.
I hope they fund it. I don't know if they will though, because they may say this is maintenance. But I am saying new warning signs. We'll see.
We'll see. It's worth a shot, and it either goes or it does. As long as they don't kick out our whole application, that will, in Joan's words, give them something to remove if they need to remove.
Sacrificial.
Right.
They do say new crosswalks, but later on they say improved roadway crossing.
Yeah, well, that's what this is.
Yeah.
So.
And I pulled that into our narrative this morning. Just
Oh, good.
the zinger in there,
Okay. We
Okay.
can look at bike lanes now then.
Right.
All right. So I'm pulling up the Depot Street one. Are you able to see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There's a couple new things in here since we last showed it to you. Obviously, we're putting it in color so it's more understandable, but we've added signs. The signs are based on us, all of this is based on us not having a lot of detailed existing conditions information. So we're using Bing Maps to look in the kind of street time that that imagery may have taken may be outdated. So so we've done our best to try to identify places where signs could go, but once you're getting into implementation, you might have to change out some sign locations. You may also need to change out some existing sign posts because they may, when you go to put on a new sign, you may find that the new sign ground. So we're trying to account for that caveat.
Okay.
Let's see, just kind of walking through this. So the highlights of the regulation in terms of what the signs are. So the pavement marking delineates where somebody biking can be on the road, or rather where they can position themselves. But the signs are really what regulate that facility and say this is a legal place for people biking. So that's why they're important. So we're trying to find where you have existing do not enter signs or one-way signs that you can just pop a little accept bicycles plaque underneath, and that provides the regulation for the contraflow bike lane. But we're also including some warning signs that would face drivers going up Depot Street to let them know, be aware of two-way traffic. And we're also including signs that let people who are biking with traffic on Depot Street understand that they can be right in the center of the lane where the arrow is placed. So that's the highlight of this section of Depot Street. We're including, so we didn't, not shown, but we have some language about it, is putting some type of vertical barrier. It could be a planter, it could be a flex post, it could be, something else in this curb extension area, so that, if you just paint it, people will still drive over it. So you need some type of delineation there. And then also alongside this driveway, and we've just included language that the driveway width should meet your land use regulations. So that will help you figure out how many vertical barriers you can place in this area to try to reduce those conflicts. Will, did you have anything to add about Depot Street?
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing as just a general comment, and I think it's a repeat of what we've discussed in the past, but kind of tying in with the signs and the conditions that we were able to get through Bing Maps. As far as our street widths, all that was pulled from aerials, so the accuracy of it may be off by a certain amount. So some of these dimensions that we're showing may need to change a little bit once the contractor is actually laying it out. Our recommendation would be to and then decrease the buffer width between the bike lane and the travel lane if necessary.
Margaret, if there are any duplicate signs in my wayfinding, should I remove it from my wayfinding? Would that make most sense?
Yes. Do you have regulatory signs in your wayfinding?
So I had include a couple of the accept bicycle ones in there in later version, take them out, because as I'm looking at a lot of the Mass DOT things, like they have extremely specific, signs that of course I wasn't necessarily, looking at the exact sign that we needed for certain things. So I might have to go back and make a little bit of adjustments. As far as my estimate goes, I'm just going to, when we do get awarded and then we do place the order, we'll have to make sure they're the correct signs to be placed at those locations. But anyway, for my wayfinding document, I did have, well, for example, you've got this bike lane, I've got bike routes and then arrows, but that seems overkill, at the same location.
So bike route is used to designate a out, but not necessarily a dedicated space.
So that would be good for like School Street and water. And then my other question mark would be Jeff's. Do we still want to indicate that as a bike route, or does that kind of give an unsafe suggestion to bikers?
Well, Jeff Street should be a low volume, low speed facility where somebody biking should feel safe.
I agree.
Right?
Okay.
So regardless of whether it has a dedicated facility, ideally it's a place where people would feel safe, and it could be a bike route. Yeah, I think for any of the location, you could remove the bike route signs from the wayfinding.
Okay. Good.
Emily, you might put a sort of a sentence at the front of your document that says all signage that's related to bike lanes are in this document.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, because the wayfinding is much broader. It's a different type of sign. It's a guide sign, and the purpose of it is not regulatory. Whereas the purpose of these signs are either regulatory, or if it's the yellow one that's a diagonal or a diamond, then it's a warning sign. So it probably makes sense for the wayfinding document to have only the guide signs in it, which would be those green and brown and blue signs.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, so MassDOT is actually developing wayfinding a design guidance right now, and I wish that you could use it, but it's like very close to done. But it's not published yet.
Yeah, they have a 2009 version that I was reading all like 1,000 pages of it. I didn't get all through it. Yeah. But I'm like, darn. If I had only looked a month ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. There's another page on this one, so we should probably go through that as well. Oh, hang on, Will, did you have anything else to add? Okay, I thought I heard something.
No, I didn't.
Okay. So, oh, you know what? I'm going to add a little part of the page. So continuing past the rail trail. So we have the contraflow bike lane here that kind of ends, and there is a bit of a no man's land here with this driveway because it's too narrow here for this area to be two-way. This cannot be two-way because it's too narrow. But we suspect that people who are using this parking lot are exiting on what would be the two-way
there's
segment.
also trucks that come in there to unload goods for the restaurant.
Okay.
I think it's pretty quiet as far as volume of traffic.
It is.
Okay. Yeah, so the contraflow bike lane will end before there, and then it just transitions into a shared lane situation with a two-way segment.
Are the trucks that go in there like box trucks or more of a tractor trailer sort of truck?
I think it's more box.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Except
so
the Budweiser truck, that's pretty big.
Yeah, well.
Sorry.
Yeah, this looks
great.
good.
Emily, quick question. Did you put the planters on our amenities? Did we already pick a couple of those? Did we need to add some for Mr. Mike's? Because I'm just looking at that corner right now where we talked about putting planters, and I know I talked with Roger about that. So Did you already put those in, or are we still looking for those?
I've included those
Oh, good.
for the bike lane.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me pull that up. Okay, so for the Depot Street opinion of probable cost, most of this is just, so this first line item is all of the different signs. It's measured by just square footage of signs. So you take all of the signs and figure out how large they are, and you figure out the total square footage for the way that that this would be done. And then the rest of, so these line items are all pavement markings. And then there's a couple spots where we're assuming that you might have a traffic sign that needs to be moved, that you have an existing sign that you may need to move up on the post to then be able to put a new one. And so we've included that. There's also a couple spots where you have a signpost that you could reuse. So you could remove it and then reset it in a new place. That would be, for example, the stop sign that is currently here can be moved. And then we're including signposts for for the new signs. And then this gets to Emmy's question about the planters. We're including 10 planters. We just kind of looked at typical heavy planter costs, $250 per. And we're thinking that you could put 4 to 5 here and maybe 4 to 5 alongside Mr. Mike's. Any thoughts on that?
I haven't gone out and measured or anything like that to know exactly. So that sounds good.
Yeah, I think when we talked about it before, and again, I talked with Emily because I had to get some pricing from Roger for labor them out. But I think that that's what Emmett said, or if that actually went into the amenities list or not, from Park, if that was
I did estimate
that was
it.
even in their catalog. Okay.
Yeah, I did originally estimate it, but I took it out so that they could be included with the Kittleson estimate, because I knew they were going to include more than what I had projected, the little wriggle room with regard to RFPs. So if we take out the planters from my vendor, that falls under the $10,000. We don't have to go out to bid. So if we do planters with a different set of, signage or what have you, then maybe that would help our, the tasks we have to do later on.
Right. I was just making, and again, my question was more to how many we had before versus how many we're estimating now, because again, Roger's time putting in for his staff to place them and fill them, whatever. I don't know what we ended up, if we need to bump that for adding additional planters at Mr. Mike's, because I didn't know if that was part of it before. I don't remember.
It wasn't. It was just the 5 that I had figured might go right here at Depot Street, not at Mr. Mike's.
Okay.
Are you all seeing the spreadsheet on my screen?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just showing that to you, and okay, let me reshare my screen.
So Margaret, when you say it's $250 per plant, include what we would be paying our cemetery guys product?
Just product. Do you see it now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I walked through all of the line items. You must have been really confused. All right. So this is the opinion of probable cost, and here this line is where we're including 10 planters.
Yeah.
And we are not including labor or we're also not including soil and the actual plants to.
Well, I think we'd be able to get those donated. We've got a lot of farms and various groups and stuff. We may even be able to do the donation ones with the little signs that say sponsored by. That might be a really good, again, community buy-in type deal.
Right.
But I was thinking, again, our cemetery guys have to haul these out here and actually, get them placed. So I don't want to not make sure that, gosh, that's like a double negative. I want to make sure that we do cover their staff costs to take that time to haul those planters out into each area and get situated where we need them.
Do you have a sense from them?
What about
Sorry, go ahead, Veronica.
I was just wondering if, yeah, I guess it's what Margaret just said. Does this construction contingency cover their labor for that?
So I know Emily has it on hers. I sent over what Roger had given for doing the cement structure underneath each of the bike repair stations, placing the couple of benches, the bike racks, and those 5 planters. And I think they gave us a total of like $400. And I think he gave me, it was something like $26 or $28 an hour, because it was 2 minimum wage per hour is what he gave us. And I, like I said, he said not to exceed $400 for time wise. I don't think that at, putting 5 more planters that up hugely. I just want to make sure that if we look back at that, we're not skimming off time somewhere that they actually are going to need to place those additional planters.
I will double that number, Emmy, for installation. But also we are, yeah, I think we should be okay, because as far as the "You're Here" signs and stuff, we are using the larger number for installation. And that'll give us plenty of buffer if we have extra money left over by using our town departments that we could use within the scope of the grant.
Trying to fix, and that's what I thought too, because they're not necessarily separate, right? So the installs between gym and the cemetery and parks, my guess is those are going to merge a bit. So like I said, I just wasn't sure what we ended up using for numbers, and I certainly know we're going to be working them hard at their high season. So I want to make sure that we don't have to be like, oh, well, never mind, or like whatever, because
there's nothing currently in our application draft about planters and benches. Shall I just put it, kind of lump it in with bike racks and the pedestrian?
Yeah, I think just to be specific that the planters are safety barriers for bicyclists and not just to pretty up the space. The benches are strategically placed in the parking lots next to the bicycle racks, so that as people are getting stuff out of their car, children can sit, wait for their parents, or somebody's at a bike repair facility, they could sit and wait for their friend fixing their bike, that kind of thing. It wasn't just to beautify per se.
I'll take care of that when we're done with this meeting.
You guys are awesome.
The planters for the Depot Street railroad intersection could also be framed as like a trail gateway type of treatment.
Nice.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
because that's where you're going to have your future. I mean, it's a trailhead.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Okay. We've got 15 minutes. Would you like to kind of quickly look through Bow Street and Highland Street and the opinions of probable cost for those?
Please.
Okay. And just to make sure I understood the conversation, we're going to keep the Depot Street planters in, and then you'll handle the line item for labor with the amenities. Okay. That sounds good.
Margaret, can I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
The PDFs that you're making for the bike lanes and stuff, what are they coming out to for?
Sorry, Joan, you're asking about the total cost?
No, not the cost, but the file size of the PDFs that you've been generating. Are they going to come in fairly small?
Let me take a look. I can also reduce the file size before I send them to you.
Yeah, you might. It's something I'm starting to worry about, because when we combine all these,
yeah,
I don't want to end up with try to upload a 30 megabyte.
These are all in the range of 1,500 to 3,500 kilobytes. So, under 5 megabytes each. But I think I will reduce the file size for you, though. It shouldn't. Hopefully, the quality won't go down too much.
Well, when they're not publishing a book, you know.
Yeah,
they're
right.
putting that online.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Cool, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, let us switch over to Bow Street. Okay. Can you see Bow Street?
It's not yet. It's
Yep.
now it's there.
Loading? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody can see? Okay, great. So the design of the actual striping hasn't changed since you last saw it. We're adding all of the things that you saw on Depot Street. So we're putting warning signs for facing the driver going who's driving up Bow Street to let them know about the two-way traffic. So these would be mounted on a new post in somebody's, well, public right away, but at the edge of somebody's front yard. So that's just something for you to consider when you're doing your outreach to the residents and abutters. And we have tried to place them strategically and not have them in front of every single house. And then here you've got a wrong way sign on the intersection of Highland and Bow. So we're proposing that you update that with the do not enter sign.
Yeah.
So remove the wrong way sign, put a do not enter sign, and then you can put a accept bicycles plaque underneath. And then for the two-way section, the contraflow bike lane becomes a kind of conventional 5-foot bike lane. And we're making sure that it's clear to people that the bike lane ends at Route 119 with the bike lane ends plaque. And then similar to Depot Street, we're including a may use full lane sign for folks who are using positioning themselves on top of the shared lane marking for the two-way section of Bow Street, and also continuing on the one-way section. So I think, yeah, if there are no questions on the concept, then I can switch over to the opinion of probable
No,
cost.
that looks fine.
Yeah, no, that'll be great because currently there's no center line in that two-way part of Bow Street. So it'll be great to actually delineate it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Great. Okay. Let me pull up the cost estimate for Bow Street. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Got it.
Okay, so for Bow Street, so I had said much higher prices in a previous call, and I wanted to note why the prices have changed a little bit. We were using unit prices that were from some previous projects that we've done that had really high prices in the Boston area, District 3, specifically pulling unit prices from MassDOT materials. And so we've swapped those in here to get and we also looked at the Markings Inc. Quotes that you had sent over, and those unit prices were under $1 per linear foot. So we're using slightly lower unit prices that are probably hopefully more realistic to D3 conditions. But just wanted to note that does really bring the price, the total cost down.
Like half.
Yeah, does it account for the potential increment? Because some of the other vendors that I've talked to, they said, just realize the estimate that I gave you now could be larger when you go to place the order.
For the signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're using a slightly higher unit price for the signs per square foot. I think MassDOT has it at something like $14, and we've seen prices that are even higher than $20. So there are some shortages
I have a question on this.
Mhm.
For labor, for putting in the signs and changing all the posts, is that done by the bike vendor, the person who does the striping, or is that being done by our highway department? And if it is being done by our highway department, where is the labor reflected?
Unit prices for MassDOT are referred to as furnish and install. So it
Okay.
includes the installation is embedded in the price, which makes it a little bit difficult to kind of separate that out and understand what the actual difference is between the material and the labor. So theoretically, this includes the labor for installation.
I think, Veronica, what we'll need to do, probably before we even know if we've got this awarded, is just sit down with Jim Smith and really go through the plan with a finer tooth comb so
Mhm.
that, any regulations he knows about that we hasn't seen any of these bike lane plans really. So, the 3 weeks he quoted me could easily be a 4th week,
Right.
taking this into account. And so we also don't want him to book that 4th week of, May, for example, and not give it to us because he didn't know really about all the signs in these plans.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so let's take a look at the Highland Street concept. Let's see, which one is that one? Here we are, Highland Street. Okay, are you able to see that?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so again, the striping really hasn't changed since you last looked at it. We are including the bike lane sign at the entrance at Main Street, as well as you have a do not enter sign here. I noticed that you have a lot of signs that have little plaques under them. I can't see what those plaques say with the imagery that's available publicly, but I don't know if signs along the Highland Street extension had 1 to 2 little plaques under, your speed limit sign or your do not enter sign. And so for those to be able to add a regulatory plaque, you're going to have to move those down, and you might need to figure out if you need a new pole or a new post for some of those locations. Without being able to read what those little plaques say. I think they said something about electrical, or I can't remember. I couldn't really see clearly, but wanted to point that out. Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean, the thinking behind the signs is similar to what you saw on Bow and Depot Street. So warning signs for the drivers who are going down Highland Street and expecting two-way traffic, except bicycle signs anywhere where you have an existing one-way sign. And then the bike lane ends in advance of where the bike lane ends at the intersection.
This looks good to me.
Okay, let me pull up the opinion of probable cost for Highland Street.
Margaret, so the corner of Depot Street that you and I both proposed to add signage is technically in the historic district. And if the historic district comes back to us next week and say, nope, no additional signs on that corner.
This corner?
No, the one at Route 119, sorry. Yeah, because it's
here.
regulatory, they don't have say, correct?
So would they also resist the
I don't know
striping?
that the road is actually a part of the historic district. I think it's just the land. So where the land might have the post is my
well,
concern.
you have one-way signs and you have do not enter signs here.
Mm-hmm.
So
as long as we can add it to that, it shouldn't be an issue.
Well, you'd have to check with them, but but we're looking for places where you can put it on an existing regulatory sign, a traffic regulation sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if we can't, let's say we can't, then does that mean because it's a safety thing, so then can we just, I don't know, does it us from being able to do the bike lane if we can't put the signage there?
The fact that you already have existing traffic regulation signs here, it seems like you should be able to add a plaque.
Yeah, that was kind of our argument when we were discussing the regulatory signs previously, was we're not just, throwing stuff up for show. Like, this is actually safety geared, right? So maybe we talk to Joan Savoy about making that really clear, I guess, when we do that. The only other thing I was thinking of, if we can't put a sign, can we do the painted words on the road?
So I'm trying to think about some kind of short-term solutions that you could do for the shared streets and spaces. You could mount a sign on a tall, like one of those orange cones, like a traffic cone, but a tall one that has a heavy rubber base at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They have a little loop at the top where you can mount signs, and you could put that kind of at the edge of the bike lane as a way to get around it, maybe.
Yeah, because that would be considered temporary, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing, municipalities all over the state are essentially delineating space for people during COVID, traffic cones. I mean, we're seeing places that are printing out a sign, laminating it, and zip tying it to a traffic cone. Like that's the level of what towns are doing. So you could do that in the interim.
Okay. And I guess that corner specifically, is there regulations preventing us from putting that do not enter sign on the opposite side of the street where Mr. Mike's is? Because that is not considered historic. I mean, it might have to go there, but I wasn't sure.
Actually, you can put a do not enter sign on both sides of a one-way road, right? Well,
Yes.
yeah. So you can actually, if there's only one on this side, you can put one on the other side. I think probably the reason why they don't have that is because this is just this wide open expanse, which really needs to be closed up for another day.
Yes. I think that we have a case with the Historical Society that this little bike lane sign will look so much better than a big tall orange cone, which is what we will put in the street otherwise.
Yeah.
So good, Veronica.
Oh yeah, that'll go over, but it's the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you could put cones both here in front of this planter and here on the other side.
That's true. We could do that just a little bit further in. The planter would be fair game, so.
Maybe we'll keep that in the back of our head, depending on how it goes with historical. But it would be, if they do push back, there is that argument. Okay, well, we can't put these in for the safety of our town, but we're still committed to the safety of our town. Therefore, we're going to get the large orange traffic cones and we're going to mount the signs on them. And then maybe they'll reconsider. I'm just like, safety has to be paramount. And we're not talking about Billy Bob's hot dog signs,
right.
Or big fluorescent pink signs about a festival. We're really talking about standard street signs that you see everywhere. That are.
Yeah, I just want to have my arguments prepared for next week.
You're going to be fantastic, Em.
You will be.
So I would note that aside from the bike lane sign, which is a larger sign, I mean, not large, right? It's a standard size sign. It's what you'd find for any traffic sign anywhere. But I do want to note the accept bicycles plaque, exact size of it, but all of the plaques are meant to be like a little thing that you add to an existing sign. It's not meant to be a large standalone sign.
Right.
Hi, Adria.
Hi, everyone. Sorry to join late. I'll get caught up.
So
Hi, Adrian.
Will and I do need to scoot out of this meeting pretty soon. So was there any, have we looked at the Highland Street cost estimate yet? I don't
We did
remember.
not. Can we just put
Okay,
that
let me
quick?
pull that up very quickly. Okay.
While you're doing that, can I ask a question?
Yep.
And this goes back kind of to crosswalk. There's a question in compliance, and my bad, I didn't realize that's just a yes/no question. We have no ability there to put in some narrative. So we did write some narrative. I'm going to move it into kind of our implementation.
Yeah, Joan, Adria actually sent me an extra sentence, and I wanted to do a little bit of touch up in a couple spots on that. So if you want, I'll just throw it into an email, and you can read through and make the changes at that point if you don't mind. I don't want to change on the document since you're still going to be moving things, but I'll shoot over a quick email later this afternoon to you, because like I said, I wanted to sort of there's a couple of little points in there that I want to make about the future forward and our of areas. Yeah.
Okay. So my question really is, we have to say no. Is that correct? Demonstrate compliance with safety and accessibility related regulations. No.
Well,
For our crosswalks?
Right. Now, none of the ramps.
So yeah, the ADA compliance is a problem because half of them have like half ramps and a couple of them have ramps on both sides, but they land in something like a mailbox or a post or a yard. So, but ours are actually better than the state ones. We at least, even though we don't have like the ADA necessary compliant ramps, most of them at least have the angle down, the break in the sidewalk with the angle down. Although they're not, like I said, they're not the graded and lined, quote unquote, ramps that ADA compliance is calling for. We do have those breaks. I'm not sure.
So I have some narrative, or I don't even remember who wrote this, but we have some narrative in here that says it's not feasible within the scope of this project to make them 100% compliant. We have that. We already have information towards doing so as part of a future project. And we're going to limit, for now, we're going to limit ourselves to restriping and to work on that one Spalding crossing.
And I honestly, even though it doesn't have like a separate section for the narrative, I don't see why. Sorry, Margaret, I know you needed to leave. Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't just leave the narrative there in explanation of our no.
There's no way I can put the narrative into the implementation
Okay.
section, so it'll be there. But what do I write for that? Yes,
let's
no.
in a few minutes. Yeah. So
I think the narrative if you're going to add narrative about the ADA compliance, you could say something like, we are not proposing to add new crosswalks at locations that would not be ADA compliant. Because you are not doing that. You are not adding any new crosswalks.
Right.
They don't want to see new facilities being added that are not ADA compliant.
One second.
All right. Write that down. Okay, we'll add that in there.
Margaret, thank
Awesome.
you so much. I know you need to go.
It's awesome.
You've been amazing. Thank you for all your help.
It's been great.
You're welcome. Okay, so we'll make those couple of changes that we discussed and so send over the final files. And then for the, Emily, do you already have a version that you're using that you filled in your information into that you'd like me to start from, or should I start from the blank
If
one?
you start from the blank one, I didn't know that there was a form, so I've been just putting it into a blank Excel spreadsheet. So I can add my
Okay.
stuff to what you
Okay, that sounds good. I do suggest that you have, you wouldn't want to get into a situation where he sees it and then a lot of
Wow.
resistance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. Mark.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
All right, so
Okay.
pedestrian crosswalks, the estimates, and the bike lanes, we're pretty well set on. Adria, I think what we need to talk to you about is the RRFB, and then look at the wayfinding signs, which Emily, I think that's pretty much under control, right? Unless there are questions to look at. So is that, and then to look at the application itself. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
I do have a couple wayfinding questions, but that can wait until after Adria.
Okay. So let's start there with Adria. Talk to us about the RRFB and what we can and cannot do and what we need to.
So I've been
do.
coordinating with our roadway engineering group. The main engineer who I had been working with is out sick all this week. So that has delayed us a bit. But I did find we had a roadway engineer who's done roadway work for Townsend. No survey data available at this particular site that we're looking at for the ADA compliant ramps, which is tricky because it would be required for those details. I also have just been coordinating with another of our road RFB projects in other parts of the state, including AIR. And so trying to get some information from her about sort of the level of effort and fee involved in that project as just kind of a case study. I think the discussion I've had with our roadway engineers here is that they're not sure they can take on the engineer drawings for the RRFB installation and the ADA compliant ramps on either side of that crosswalk within last time we spoke. And the concern is just, the sort of level of effort involved in needing to do a site visit to be familiar with location, needing to get the survey data because it doesn't currently exist, and needing to spend time confirming the design drawings that were drafted by Kittleson. And so that's sort of the pushback I've gotten so far. And I'm not sure what the best resolution is other than that I'll keep talking with them and seeing how we can, work this out. But I think if Kittleson has other engineering groups they can recommend, I know they can't do the engineering design drawings themselves after the grant is awarded. But if they have access to maybe a list from Mass DOT of recommended vendors, I don't want to leave you guys hanging.
I actually know a very well-regarded one. My dad, architect and engineer, but I know a really well-regarded engineer, landscape engineer and roadway engineer, actually locally in Fitchburg, Leominster area. So
That's amazing.
there are some, and we are locked in to about-ish 7,500. My take is maybe we do try and farm it out for the engineering drawings and see what we can do for just that location. I mean, I don't want to ditch the RRFB.
Right.
That's my biggest concern. And like I said, if we can reach out, I know of one, like I said, Leominster Fitchburg. My dad has been an architect and an engineer for a bazillion years in Acton. So he knows a lot of local firms. So maybe I sort of, lay my hands at my dad's feet again, because I asked him for a lot of help for the town stuff. Like, and see if he could maybe, and again, from talking with Jim Smith, it doesn't sound like Townsend's used any type of engineer. But maybe even Eric Chartrand or Ricks, who was with us or they've kept in the queue to possibly use here in the future. I don't want to lock out the RFP without, and again, ladies, this is all up to you. I'm just rambling, without maybe exploring the possibility of getting that put in.
Right, and I wouldn't want you to have to lose anything in the application either. So I think that sounds like a good thing to explore. Emmy, sorry, Veronica.
Oh, no, that's okay. I think we should leave it in and ask for it. Worst case, we don't put it in and we give them back the money.
Right.
Meanwhile, Eric Chartrand, our building inspector, he came to us from Fitchburg. So you're suggesting that he might know somebody is a good one. So he might be able to.
You may even know.
I think
I know over there.
I think we spend RFPs until we find out if we get the award, seeing if we can find somebody who would be willing to do the engineering for us. I am surprised that we have what we do have at Spalding with the ramps on either side without having any survey data or plans for that.
Well, even that we were able to, and maybe we didn't go through channels to be able to actually close off the parking lot on that side, which is a 119 side, without having anything. I mean, we closed off the flow of traffic off of 119 by closing off that parking lot area, which I mean, from what I'm all hearing now, we probably weren't supposed to do. But
yeah, after thinking, the meeting with MassDOT the other day and thinking about looking at I keep wondering.
Jim hasn't been here to have that kind of anecdotal knowledge, so
That's true.
Yeah, and I think that, they were put in so far past, and we haven't done any repair work to any of our sidewalks that far up, of reforming or anything like that, to have addressed them in at least a decade, if not more. And, again, and that goes far enough back that not knowing contract and the out contract has that information, there's just no way to track it.
Right.
Yeah, and just to keep in mind, it will be the installation will be something that we will have to find a vendor for. I believe Margaret is including that estimate in her.
Yeah,
her
we
spreadsheet.
didn't look at that one. Yeah, she went through the bike lanes, but she didn't go through
With the RFP though, I believe she did say that they're all function and install. Yeah. So it would be, that would be within the cost estimate that she puts in there. And I love that. And Adria, I don't want this on your plate, but I don't want to say, hey, don't try and pick away at your guys, because
I'll keep picking away. Don't worry. I made new connections just today, so I'm looping everyone in.
There you go. It's
I won't give up.
I love the idea. Again, Veronica, I think that would be great if you house, he's our in-house guy, and you guys already have some communication about various things here in town. If maybe you do an outreach to him, and I try and pull some names together with those that I know that have worked in this area, including roadways and stuff like that. Maybe we can come up with a couple of folks we could even have casual conversations with before we get too crazy into even an RFP bidding.
It makes me wonder, I'll talk to Eric. It makes me wonder too about our maintenance contract. Because what they said that they don't do the ADA compliance as part of the maintenance contract. So what's the date on that contract? When do we renegotiate it? How does that work?
Yeah, and because that's a matter of, so with our maintenance contract, if they're not doing that, so again, it puts us in a place we need to have an engineer to engineer site survey 119, but then we could put in the permit and they could be like, nah, we're not.
Right. Yeah, it's a
So-
little, so anyway, everybody's radar, but now they are. And so
They
there,
are now.
I'll talk to Eric and see what he thinks or who he knows or what our possibilities are. But I don't think we should take it out. I think we should leave it in.
And so I had that question because Adria has actually worked on that MVP for quite a bit, and there's a grant going in for that. So Adria, does the MVP address any of these sorts of issues? I did see your presentation, and it did say an area on roadways and impact, right? So I wasn't sure how that fits in because it's environmental as well.
So I can say that there is quite a list of things that are technically eligible for the MVP Action Grant, but given how competitive it's gotten with more and more towns in the state becoming eligible, and given the grading criteria that we know EEA uses, it really comes down to what is competitive. And what is competitive for that grant are nature-based solutions. They will not, in this last round especially, we saw that they really did not award grants for infrastructural projects, even though it's eligible, even though it's included as a category. So they really want to see a strong commitment to nature-based solutions in any proposal. The current application that the town is interested in is related to the resilience of water supply, looking at public and private options, and looking at the impact of two particular hazards, one being flooding and the other being
So if
drought.
we have to tear up any roads to do that, I'm just saying.
Right.
Like just look at the big picture. If we happen to have to tear up any of our roadways in order to deal with that sort of thing, we should really
Much sense to be efficient about the process and try to bundle as much as you can if you're already, tearing things up like you say. I think the first step of this MVP Action Grant, if it's awarded, will have to be to do the assessment. But the great thing about the grant is that you can continue to apply for the follow-up work for implementation.
Okay, awesome.
What I have learned in all of this is you need to have assessments and studies, and if you don't have that, you can't go straight to the project. It's kind of, but it limits us because we don't have.
I feel like, Adria, towards the very beginning of this, you might have sent us a link that addresses getting things like assessments. I feel like you might have sent us something for research or grants that had to do with studies and assessment. I'll have to look back at that, but I feel like maybe Margaret sent it or maybe you sent it, but it was a link in one of our chats, I think, that had to do with trying to find some more of these, the ways to actually get the assessments and
part of the MVP HMP report, which has just gotten formal FEMA approval for the town. Yay! It's great. Yeah, a great part of that is that there's an entire chapter on funding opportunities, and so part of that was we linked the action items that came out of the study with particular grants, but we also included a whole table at the end that summarized federal and state grants that are applicable for a wide range of actions. Since the purpose of that plan was really focused on natural hazards and climate change, many of them related you might take like inner stream assessments or streets, and see what I can pull.
That would be wonderful. As I said, we're definitely going to put this in for this grant, but it's good to know, if if we're awarded the grant, but we're still not able to pull it off, where we can go from there and have something in the queue to look at. So we're not, this isn't wasted, or we're not waiting 3 years to address it again. So, so I just wanted to, again, you know much more about grant writing and the resources than we have in our collected knowledge. So it just made more,
Definitely, I'll get them, but I'll have sort of all the grants that we find. So let me take a look at that master list, and I'll pull anything.
That's awesome. And then maybe Veronica, once that Mass Community Grant page, whatever thing pops up, or we're able to access that, we can sort of take a look.
Community one. You can.
Yeah, what community off?
Are you talking about the Mass Community One Stop?
Yeah.
Those are all, I think, through the state or federal.
Okay.
And I don't think it's any private grants, but you know, but that you can get to on the mass.gov website. If you just Google mass.gov Community One Stop, it's the new way that they're doing grant applications in the States. And they want a community look at it really takes the whole town looking at things as a whole and going, instead of this piecemeal, you know, well, we're going to go for this one and we're going to go for that one. So anyway, this streets is a little different because this is something that didn't exist and is only because of COVID and the CARES Act funds. That's all.
And I guess that was a bit of my contract, my question for Adria too. So we're working obviously on the share streets, and you came in with your expertise to give us a hand in constructing this and which directions to go. So that's the other question, is that, so what we've already pulled into place, if we're going to be looking at, and again, I don't want to go way off, but if we're looking again at pulling some of these components back out of the drawer and addressing them, is that something that we can come back to Weston and Sampson with in order to continue that same process out with a different grant or a different process?
We would always be happy to help with grant writing opportunities and brainstorming project ideas. Yeah, we're here as resource for sure.
I said, I'm just trying to figure out parameters as we really put this together, and what we leave on the table versus which we're, you know, going after. Right. So that was sort of my other. Did anybody else have anything about the RRFB, like other than, you know, how we're going to handle that engineering portion? Adria, did they give you an IRA?
So that's what I've been trying to get sort of a handle on, is, you know, if the 7,500 doesn't feel doable with what they feel the level of effort is, what number would feel doable. And I've sort of, you know, been coordinating with a number of different folks. Just this morning, I found one person who I think might be able to give me a good number, but I don't have that number yet. So more to come,
Perfect.
I hope.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was my only other. I don't necessarily want to go out into the market and start asking firms if I have no idea what the ballpark is. Like if we know what our budget is approximately, but if we have no idea that what we're looking at, then we can't make contingent plans, I guess.
And you may have already discussed this in the first hour of the meeting, but I know in the last call it sounded like we might be able to get the current cost estimates in front of the highway department and see what their reaction was. Have you?
No. You know, as far as putting it in goes, we didn't really talk to them about the RRFB. At least I didn't.
So the RRFB, and so I did ask Jim at the highway department, and I don't believe, now he talked specifically about the ADA compliant ramps, but I'm guessing it would be all encompassing, and they don't do them. He suggested that, you know, Cemetery and Parks is currently putting sidewalks in at the Commons, so maybe they could get an estimate or find an estimate from that company, but I don't know if that company also does compliance roadway stuff. So I didn't have him proceed. But I know we don't do it in town. It would be something we would outsource.
Okay, let me talk to Roger. I can't remember the name of the company that's putting in the sidewalks, but there is someone there, so.
And then the idea within that, if we find a firm or a group that does put them in, do they have an engineer connected already to their company?
Yeah.
In which
Well,
we would be able to roll that 7,500 into what the upcharge is already rolled into. As you know, Margaret said, it's kind of hard to separate it, but the install is connected. So we could say, you know, this is what we're looking for the entire project, and you know, actual material is what is left over for the install and design, or install and engineering, and like package it as a whole. Because I'm assuming if a company puts in sidewalks or AD or specific for ADA compliance, they may already have firms or contractors that they work with that would actually provide the engineering. So again, maybe that's just another avenue that when you talk to Jim about who would be used, or if Eric knows somebody, then we can find out if that too would be a whole bundle.
Margaret comes back with, you know, when she sends her stuff later today, and I'll compose something to Eric, Roger, and Jim, because I don't know who the right person is. And let them know what we need. But I think for purposes of the grant and getting it in tomorrow, we go with what Margaret gives us.
Absolutely,
and
just go through it.
And if we aren't successful in finding a company to provide us with stamp plans and install, we just, it's the money goes back to the state. That's what it comes down to. So, okay. And we have the bike lanes all set. So our next thing then is wayfinding signs.
Yep.
And then I will tell you that I have to get off at noon because I have a website thing from noon to 3 for our new. So, Adria, it's up to you whether you want to stick around with us till noon and provide what you think.
So as far as wayfinding is concerned, so I looked through my document just to make sure that with some of the changes that we've discussed, we're not leaving signs where they don't belong, or we don't have to change them around. And I will, once we get the documents that we saw from Margaret, I'll be able to go through those with a fine-tooth comb and make sure I don't have any duplicate signs, because I do know that we do have some. And also I'm glad to know now the distinction between a bike route and a bike lane. So those things I will fix as well. So some of the questions that I have, let me see. So at Riverbank Terrace, so because Jeff Street is not going to be one way, and in some conversations we said, you know, Squanicook is not going to be at Jeff Street for a little while, right? So do we still want that, you know, Squanicook Rail Trail green sign with an arrow pointing down Jeff Street anymore?
I say no. What do you think, Joan? I mean, that would be a really futures thing.
Yeah.
I would do a bike route for sure.
And I would do parking.
What do you think, Joan, about the Squanicook Rail Trail? Do we want a sign there or not?
And why not? Because it's not a preferred, well, why not?
I mean, it would be because it's not right there at the Jeff's parking, I guess is what I'm thinking. But we could put it because it is down, it's a bike route and it is down Jeff Street. So maybe we should keep
and Jen, maybe you can speak to that. So where we have that post at Jeff Street that has the public, where it says public parking. The thought idea on that is if we have that public parking sign, instead of putting the Squanicook River Rail Trail sign up at 119, we have the bike route one, but maybe we put the Squanicook River Rail Trail arrow there so that when people go into park, they know that they're heading that way. because it's public parking. They're going to park somewhere, right? If they're looking for it. And if your parking isn't set already, Joan, does it make more sense? Because we do have the "You Are Here" maps are supposed to be going in that parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be designated there.
There's only
But
gonna
if
be
they're looking
about
for it,
eight or 10 parking spaces at the rail trail.
Yeah.
So I could foresee Jeff's getting used. for rail trail.
what's your thoughts, Jen? Since again, it's right there and you know what.
I think that, I mean, my opinion is I wouldn't encourage people to park at Jeff Street for the rest there. And there's, if people are riding their bikes up there, it's really not a place that I would encourage people to ride their bikes right now. The roads are not in good condition, and you can't tell now, but in the summer there's a significant amount of foliage that blocks that entrance.
Yeah, there is.
I really encourage people to ride their bike there. It's uphill, it's around a bend. I think in the future, when the rail trail goes out there, it would be a great idea, and I definitely think it'll get used. But right now, how it is, I don't think that it's the safest option, and we should be encouraging people, especially where there's no crosswalk. I had my kids do that loop on their bikes. We all went out and did that the other day, and it's not safe. I wouldn't let my kids ride their bikes like that, and I would be more inclined to go up to the crosswalk and then cross over. I don't know if there's even a sidewalk unsafe to be encouraging people cycling at this point.
So maybe we make a note to put those signs or to pursue those signs, because we definitely at some point we need to have them. We want to have them, and maybe we put them at the same time as we are pursuing the crosswalk at the hardware store across 13 and the repair of that sidewalk corner area.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when and again, Joan, maybe that's more in line with when the Squanicook River Rail Trail starts heading westward a little bit more towards West Townsend. That lineup time might be better and give us a chance to address those, especially if we're going to be doing, again, fingers crossed, if we get the Wild and Scenic and we're doing some work back there.
Yeah.
The area is where we want to do the work, and that's inclusive of that bank where Jeff Street parking is.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a better time to address getting the transportation all the way to that. Again, I'm not sure, and I'm certainly not an expert on this street, the area, or the Squanicook River Rail Trail. So
That's fine. That's good.
I would put bike route and parking at that.
Yeah.
Okay, but no Adams Dam either? So no trail?
Well,
point?
I would put Adams
Okay,
Dam.
so right now, so we'll have the brown Adams Dam signage, bike routes instead of Squanicook Rail Trail, parking, and bike parking at that spot. Assuming we can have that many signs.
right. Yeah, the narrows, and then of course we'll still have the Squanicook River Rail Trail signs on the center pointing down 13 and down that and Depot area, right? We still have those ones that we're pointing down towards Squanicook River Rail Trail. That's still part of those, isn't it?
You mean the railroad sign trail?
Yeah.
I think that's what you're talking about, the Vicksburg signs. Yeah.
Yeah, the Vicksburg signs still include the Squanicook Rail Trail. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And again, we're going to have that "You Are Here" map is going to be, cemented, dropped into, there'll be a clear area. And I know Veronica already talked with them a little bit about tree stuff, but that's going to be part and parcel of when we get into this, that we're going to have to upkeep that area a little bit better. But it will.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a concern about the bike rack and the "You Are Here" sign. My experience with the Jeff Street parking lot is we have to be sure that those are kept safe from the plow trucks when they plow the parking lot, because I don't know if you've seen the little the sad little parking sign that's there now, that's been hit a couple times by plows, and it's sort of at a slant. So, you know, that's probably just something during the install to take into
Yeah,
consideration.
I was kind of thinking it when you go into the Jeff Street parking and you're facing the river right there, you're far left before the trailhead area. That was my thought. If we tucked it right in there, because that's at the edge of our parking zone, I guess, or parking area, and it's not and through it if we put it there. That's just my, like I said, if we tuck it into that area right next to that.
Yep. That should be perfect because they actually stop a little bit before there. So
I think when we install them, especially in that location, you guys could be there either with me or do that with them so that you know that area really well.
Yep.
Okay, so what other signs, Emily?
Sure. I'll eliminate all the one-way signs that I had for Jeff Street. And let's see if there's anything else. So we had another Squannacook rail trail sign at Bow Street and Route 119, and it was actually pointing up towards Riverbank Terrace, which would then you'd see the sign that would take you down Jeff Street or Riverbank. Instead of doing that, instead of the up arrow, I'm thinking the left arrow makes more sense so that it would point down Depot Street. Right. And I just wanted to confirm that with you all, that that's a better alternative.
I agree with that.
And we can change them in the future if we need to, and we get that, you know, we end up shifting the bike lanes over. We still have the public parking, so they still know they can park there. But if they're bicycles, we're not heading them down Riverbank any longer. We're heading them down Depot.
So otherwise, I'm just waiting for Margaret's documents so that I can compare and then take out any ancillary signs that we don't need. I'll still keep my estimate the same in case there's, because I think as we go through the Mass DOT stuff, I'm sure I'm going to be, you know, informed about, you know, the proper signs to use or what have you. So it'll give us just that wiggle room. But I'll, you know, as far as this grant is concerned, my estimate will just reflect what the estimate that I currently have for the sign, you know, submitted. And we'll just go from there.
All right. So
Awesome.
Joan, moving on to the application itself. What do you need from us?
I need everyone to read it and correct it. I make stuff up.
You're so good at it.
Read it. I'm going to volunteer you for everything.
Jen's actually going to meet with me around 3:45. We're going to do a full read through. We're going to do some of that updating, like I said, on the ADA, and sort of take a look at what we can pull to our town social media post that just says, hey, you know, thanks everybody. Thank you for all of your input. You know, we're really excited about this and we're really hoping we'll keep you posted. You know, that sort of thing, or we'll, you know, stick with our transparency of what we're looking to do.
The documents
so we'll probably have something to you by 4:30, if that's all right, with a full read through where they can find them.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay. So just
Jen,
send us an email.
Sorry, too many people are talking about.
So what is the plan? What's the timeline for this afternoon? And I see Emily has her hand up too. Who's going through it at 3:45?
Jen and me.
And then it's going to Joan at 4:30?
Yeah, we're going to do our read. and we'll actually make changes or construct. We want it to look uniform, and it's going to be her voice that is connecting all the pieces. So we'll go through, take a look at edits, any suggestions, that sort of thing, and we'll send it in an email so she can just copy and paste if she wants to, or if she just wants to look at the suggestions and roll them in again with her voice or not. That'll give we don't want it to look piecemeal, like this by this is, it really needs to still stay uniform.
Wait, Joan,
I would prefer that you wrote directly into the document and made your edits. I will reread it and I can massage it a little if I need.
That works, Jen?
It saves steps.
Sure. All right, we'll do it that way. We won't do it by email. Then we'll write right into it.
Yeah, I trust
we
you.
can maybe we can.
This is our document. So there's a lot of comments in there still. Please read them and reply to them. If you say, I think this is fixed now, then I'll come back and I'll delete the comment.
Okay.
All right.
So for everyone, at the top right of the document, there's like a kind of a lighter blue editing button. If you select the arrow down, if you don't think, like if you're correcting a capitalization or whatever, go ahead and edit. If you're really not sure, like, is this the wording that's testing? And edit as if you were, but it will redline it so that Joan could look at it, see your suggestion, and then she could just check mark and accept it if she likes it, if you prefer that.
Yeah, and I can say that Emily's been doing that right along, and it's worked out well. I just come through, I see what she's up to.
I can't make it load right now, but maybe it did just now. Okay, so tell me where
you probably.
You are this?
So sorry, yes. So at the top right corner of the document, there's a dark blue share button. Underneath, there's like a light blue that says editing mode.
Got it. Okay.
If you look at the upside down triangle and you press it, you can also do suggesting. So if you select suggesting, you can go into a part of the document and start making your corrections or changes, and it'll redline the document instead of deleting what was there and just putting your stuff. And then Joan can take that red line and either accept it or reject it afterwards.
Thank you. I've been just typing in, Joan. I've just been making my.
It's funny. One day I was on it while I saw you typing. It was kind of. I felt like I was eavesdropping on your.
On what I was
doing. I could see your thought process.
Yeah. Okay. Are you suggesting? So so Margaret is putting her stuff together. Emily is kind of collating everything after it comes from Margaret and putting together the estimate, which we just found in the shared streets, that form that they want, that you sent, Joan.
Yeah, but Margaret's is that format.
Yeah, so that's good. All right, so do you want me to send to Jim Smith the concepts, or Emmy, do you want to do that when we get them from I
can send them over to Jim. Again, I can shoot him a text and let him know that they're coming. He doesn't spend a lot on his computer, so it's always good to give him a heads up that you're sending something, so he knows to go looking for it. Yep. So, I'll shoot him a quick text on his cell and let him know that I'm sending it over, and if he wants to take a peek, and then suggest a time when he's available, because he's in at 5 o'clock in the morning and like crazy stuff. But when he's available, where we can sit down and maybe go through them with him.
Okay. And I will send an email. I'll take the RRFB and I will send an email to Eric, Roger, and Jim and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do at Spalding. We're putting this in the grant. Do you know of an engineer who could provide us with stamp plans for the for this concept, including ADA compliant ramps on either side, redoing the ADA compliant ramps? Okay.
Couple more questions. Emmy, if you're going to be the contact, we need a phone number in there.
Yep, no problem. I'll pop that in. When
And also, as I was reading last night, in some of the requirements, they wanted time frames. So I went back through the application this morning and I took all the milestones and I put dates on them. And you guys are probably gonna freak out when you see it, but please look at those. I made it up.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, I have an MRPC meeting tonight. It'll probably be after that, somewhere around 9 o'clock, or should I wait until the morning to look at the application?
Wait till the morning. I mean, we're still, I mean, that was a really nice move to push our target a day ahead. You know, gives us wiggle room. I'm free Thursday and Friday. I've left the time open. So you guys do what you have to do. You know, don't let me breathe down your neck. If I have to work on this late tomorrow, that's fine.
I also wanted to suggest, Emmy, before you post anything on social media, that, sorry for the echo, that we plan on posting these documents for people to review. And Veronica, or for everybody, whatever, I'll send out improved slides from our earlier presentation so that the pictures aren't layered on top of each other. And then also all of the update PDFs and such.
Okay, so I can access to make edits on the recreation page of our website, but I can't do it on the primary website. I don't have that kind of security clearance. So I think together, I can send them over to Kathy and Jess, and maybe she can do the upload.
Okay. That, are we doing this once we know, once we've applied, or are we doing it
I think we
before
should
we've
wait
applied?
until we actually put the application in.
I
But
agree.
again, I do think, you know, transparency is just so key, and like that communication is so key, that I do think that we should have those documents available after we actually put the application in.
Okay, I agree. I didn't want to, I thought, oh no, if we do this before, it's such a short turnaround and we can't make any changes.
Right.
At
We
the
can't
point,
take
we're
feedback.
done. No additional changes to this, really. So,
Emily, what's your target for getting the financial and the two attachments to me?
It'll depend on when we get our stuff from Margaret,
It'll be tomorrow.
probably.
It won't be today. That's fine. Keep me posted if you can. Just drop a line.
Adria, are you on the Google Doc? Are you shared on that already?
So I do have a link. There was one day it didn't work when I clicked on it, and afterward it did work. So I don't know what the issue was. I have access.
Okay. Yeah. And again, it would be fantastic, the more eyes that can kind of do that clear up, because Jones, you know, she's worked really hard on this, and we want to make sure that we give her our, you know, we don't want to throw it all on her neck either. And I think if all of us take that, you know, take this evening or even tomorrow morning to sort of just read through any updates that people have made or suggestions, and then, you know, give feedback in that way, or you know, once Joan has a chance to go through it, just so that she has that collective, and it comes through in her voice at the same time. You know.
let me take a look tonight, and I'll make direct comments and direct proposed edits for anything I see. But it was looking great before, but I'll take another look tonight.
Awesome.
I think I feel like it's in pretty good shape.
It is.
It's a matter of just making sure the wording is exactly how we want it.
Yeah.
And Emily putting together, Margaret getting us stuff, but I think we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it's in great shape. That I can't believe the amount, the amount of stuff that Joan's already put in there, and Veronica, obviously you and Emma have already gone in. I went in and did a couple of like just the little things like, you know, emails and stuff, but I haven't changed any words yet. I was like, let's just, you know,
but every time I go in, I just change.
I'm glad, Em, thanks for schooling us on that share button or that suggestion button. I didn't know that was there. I was just going to type things like hot pink and then tell Joan to look for the pink things, you know, like.
I didn't even do that. I just changed them. So Joan, I hope it was
That's
okay.
fine too.
But how do you feel about it, Joan? Do you
I think it's
we're
a real good document. I went through all the DOT's website today to see what are we missing, what do we forget, and I think we're on top of everything. But I also look through and see where they give you extra points for, you know. I mean, they give you extra points for open spaces. Bing, we got it. For routes for seniors, we got it. I mean, the only thing we miss is we're not connecting to transit. It's like, oh well.
Well, we don't have it.
Yeah.
And the ADA compliant piece, where we have to, as a town, we have to work on that. So that's coming.
Yeah. So do you think we just answer no? For the no question, you have to be.
If it's a yes, no question,
How exactly is it listed?
you know, the
We
only,
look at it when we win. All right.
okay,
You'll see that under implementation, I moved a lot of explanation. Like we're really trying, you know, we're really trying with ADA, but we
the
can't.
only place we are, okay, the only place is with the RRFB.
Yeah, I wrote that in.
That's the only place where we would be improving.
So
Everything else it depends on how the question's asked. You're right. Right.
it says demonstration of compliance with safety and accessibility related regulations, and then it just says yes or no. So here's the thing, if we're doing the RFB and we were putting that in the proposal with the are those pictures from Margaret are going in? So that actually is the demonstration of compliance. Specific that one, and that would have to come in our summary conversation, and I think that be and acknowledge the lack elsewhere.
And qualify in the yes. Is there room for
There's
qualification?
A radio button. Bing.
Yeah.
I read it the same way as Emmy. Like with what we have proposed, are we demonstrating compliance with safety and accessibility? Yes.
Yeah.
That answer is yes.
Okay.
And I did write down word for word Margaret's suggestion about phrasing that one sentence. And like I said, when Jen and I go in today, we'll slide that in with another suggestion that Adria had made, and again some wording that we were looking at in previous meetings for that, so that again we emphasize what we've demonstrated for what's going to be new or improved, and then let them know that we're aware of those things that are staying the same and that we're looking at future proposals for that. So, you know, but that's kind of the aside. We really want to focus on the demonstrating what we are doing new. And that would be that RRFB.
Okay, already did it.
Say yes. I saw it turn pink for a second there, Joan, when you were typing in it. That was so cool.
Yeah, well, it's pink on mine because you were looking at it, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right.
Is that it, guys? This is really cool. This is so exciting. All this hard work comes down to the next couple of days.
Yeah, and it's, you know, there's still work to do, but it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
So at least I don't feel like it is.
You guys all seen the map?
I saw it. Don't,
Yeah. The locust
Yeah,
map.
does it look all right? I don't know
I
if I
like
sent
it.
it to everyone right.
Yeah, I sent you my 2 comments. I think I had a couple comments
Yeah, take
about,
out that one crosswalk.
yeah, I don't know if it was in there or not. I wasn't sure. The one at St. John's.
I
that
took
we
it
had
out.
to remove. And then the other thing was, we are putting in to put a "You Are Here" on the town common and bike racks at the town common parking lot. I know it's contingent on the historical society. But my question, Joan, was I don't want to overwhelm the map by, I don't know that we need every detail. So
Well, that goes to one of the questions that I have, and Joan and I were speaking about this earlier today, that do you think I need to include the map on my wayfinding document? I mean, the way I have it the 1, 2, 3, 4, and what have you, and then our tables down below correspond to the 1, 2, 3, 4. But is it overkill because we already have the locust maps? Is it just enough to say the intersections or the locations and GPS, and then without the map?
I would keep it the way you have it with the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
I think the locus is more general, but I think it's specific and you have it. And I think we should give them the detail.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
that's my opinion. I don't know what other people think. Okay. All right, good. Good. So. All right, so I am going to do the RRFB with Jim, Eric, and Roger. Emmy, you'll send the plans for the crosswalks and the bike lanes for just concept review to Jim Smith so he doesn't go, ah. And I think everything else is, you know, everybody's gonna look at what's there. I did note outreach to residents and abutters regarding new posts on their properties while Margaret was talking. So that might be something after we put it in, it might be something that we note in what we put up on the website or whatever.
That goes in again, sort of like that whole thing with Mr. Mike's and stuff. A lot of people either ignore or don't realize that the front of their properties for a certain amount of footage doesn't actually belong to them. It's their lawn, yes, but not necessarily. So that's another one where it's like, okay, well, this long, we don't want to smack dab the sign right in the middle. Moving it to the edge is, you know, more respectful, but understanding that it does have to go somewhere in there.
We had to move barbecue pits off the rail trail, horseshoe pits, cars, sheds. It's not yours.
And I bet we could use a kind of a template from one of the other committees, because I know I've received something from, if you want to come to this meeting about this property, you know, we could probably use some of that verbiage, get a letter set and ready if we wanted to send it out, or intend to send it out for when.
Just looking, I want to look at her designs more, because on Bow Street, I think I noted 2 places. And if we did what Emmy just said, like put it up at the corner of the property, maybe not exactly where she has them, but, you know, move them a little bit so it's not quite in front of someone's house and more on the corner of a property or the edge of a driveway or whatever. It might be, well, edge of a driveway, maybe not, it'll get run over, but we should look at, you know, corner of property. So.
And even like, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Adria.
Thank you, Adria.
There may be other big posts there already that we can put them on that we haven't looked at yet. Right. You know, there are telephone posts and posts all over the place. So there may even be something that we can utilize already there without, you know, getting like there's stuff that's going to happen. Be like, you can't just plant it anywhere you want. Right. I know.
All right, you guys, I need to jump off to, because I have another call. So thank you all. This has been great. And we'll figure out a time when we have it final to Joan, you're our submitter, correct?
Yeah, I'll do it.
So, okay. So either, tomorrow night or Friday morning. So should be good. All right,
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good
See you
rest
later.
of the day.
Okay.
Bye.
Later.